What's going on, guys? Just got done working on a deer head I've been working on for a few days and finished him up. I had to do some tear duct repair, so I went ahead and made a video of every step fixing that, and maybe it'll come in handy with y'all. Y'all get done watching the video in the links down in the description. I've actually got some Amazon links of some of the paint, epoxy sculpt, and maybe some of the tools and stuff that I used down there today. But anyway, appreciate y'all watching. Y'all enjoy this video. What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. If y'all are watching this, you're probably sitting there with a deer head in front of you, or a cape that looks like somebody has fleshed it or caped it with a chainsaw. This deer right here was killed in Texas. I'm in the state of Alabama, and we can't bring out-of-state deer heads back into Alabama. They have to actually be caped off the head completely, and you can just bring the antlers with the skull cap, and that's all. So what you run into is you get a lot of outfitters who are caping these deer heads for people that don't know correctly how to cape a deer. And even if they do, they're never going to see the taxidermist, and so they're not going to be held accountable for the job that they do on the cape anyway. Let me show y'all what we've got. This right here is the tear duct on one side, and that's bad. I mean, that's pretty bad right there to begin with. But y'all look at this other side. I mean, the hole for the tear duct is almost the same size as the actual eye. I mean, it looks like they took their knife and literally went straight across the bones of the skull and just cut it loose. Same thing with the nostrils. There's no inner nostril skin whatsoever. It's cut flush with the outside of the nose. So you have no tucking material. Everything on the inside of that nose is going to have to be rebuilt out of epoxy. Plus just holes. I mean, there's holes all in this cape. I've already stitched some of them up, had to make some repairs. But anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show y'all as I mount this deer how I'm going to repair that and try to cover it up, try to make it look a little bit better. There's no perfect way to do this. You just have to do the best that you can and try to hide what you can. Best thing to do too, if you can tell that it's a repair, and even if you can't, wouldn't be a bad idea to tell your customer when they come to pick the deer up the situation, how you fixed it, where the repair was at, and be completely transparent with them. And, you know, possibly in the future, they will either tell the outfitter and keep an eye on what they're doing, or best case scenario, you can teach them how to do it. I'd highly recommend, if you're going to go out of state and hunt and you're watching this video, watch my video of how to cape a deer off the head. And the best thing you can do is do it yourself. There's no quality control like you having control. You can take your time. It's your animal, so you're going to care about it more than any outfitter or anybody else is anyway. So let's get started. First I'm going to start off by trying to stitch this up a little bit and see if I can get these holes closed in so that later on we can kind of epoxy over it and cover up some of that mess. What I'm going to use is a very fine piece of sinew cape thread. You take that sinew thread and just split it and get you a little fine piece off of there. You don't want anything very thick. You're going to have a hard time keeping this from showing up anyway. Now, we basically just have an eye opening left. See how that looks. Yeah, that's not terrible. It's not terrible. You can still see the stitch is just a little bit right there, but it looks a whole lot better than a gigantic hole. And most of this is going to be tucked down in my modeling clay in that tear duct, just like that. And then we can put a little bit of epoxy over it and smooth it to help hide that. So when I put this on a form, I'll show y'all how we're going to tuck that. Okay, we've got this guy generally roughed in, and I'm going to work on this eye. I mean, that eye, man, is tore up. Ain't no eyelids left, hardly. There's not any tucking skin on the corners. We're going to see if we can tuck that in. What I did is I dremeled out the tear duct a little bit deeper than I normally would, filled it full of modeling clay. We're going to see if we can't fill that in with those stitches, try to hide that. All right, I'm going to use a little bit more glue than I normally would. We're going to get it all over the place, but I want to make sure that it gets all down in that clay, because I kind of want that clay to seal all of this into place and turn solid without it being able to move much. Alrighty, let's see here. Just going to tuck what's available first, which is very little. Very, very, very little. All right, let's see if we can't. See if we can't get this to sit in here. What you have to do is just kind of sculpt this and shape it the way that it needs to be, so that when it dries, it looks like everything is there that's supposed to be. Then you can go back with epoxy and smooth it over. Kind of work out some of those problem places in there. If just the tear duct or just the eye is messed up, it's usually not too hard to fix. Man, when you're missing so much, there's a lot of work's got to be done, but it's fixable. Just hate spending those precious labor hours on something that shouldn't take but just a second. Make sure all of that stitching is tucked down into that modeling clay. And like I said, I've got that full of glue down in there, so hopefully once that glue sets, it'll turn that clay and everything will just be solid. It should hold all that in place. Okay, that's good enough for right now. I'm gonna let that sit, dry a little bit, work with it as it dries. Try to get the shape out of it that I want. And I'll come back when I go to epoxy it. We'll epoxy it and I'll show y'all how I do that. Okay, the deer is dry and it's ready for some epoxy work. I've already got the nose and most of the rest of the deer epoxy. Still got a little work to do. But we're back to our eye. Y'all can see the stitches right here. They didn't fully keep closed up, but that right there is not bad. That'll be able to be covered up pretty easily. So I've got some epoxy mixed up. I'll show y'all what we're going to do here. First off, I'm going to epoxy in the eye just like I normally would. Y'all forgive my camera work. Every once in a while I forget to look down at my camera and I'm just looking at what I'm doing. The camera's staring off into space. A little water. Okay, now let's see if we can cover up this tear duct. A little bit of epoxy here. I'm just going to mash it down into those stitches. Let it fill in all those gaps and holes and just get right in between those stitches right there and cover everything up. Smooth that with some water. And then you kind of want to shape this the shape where that eyebrow comes down, an eyelid. That way when your epoxy dries, it looks like it did in the first place. There we go. Now, take my paintbrush, little flat tip brush right there, some water on it, we'll smooth that eye. Smooth out that epoxy in the tear duct. If you apply just a little bit of pressure with that brush, you can actually make a little bit of contour lines and shape that tear duct where it comes in right there. Alrighty. That right there looks pretty good. Okay, we're gonna come back after this dries. We're gonna paint it, see what we end up with. Okay, so I about got him all just about finished up. I got to do a little more grooming and stuff, but there's the eye that we made. It's by no means perfect, but it's a whole lot better than it was to begin with. And the important thing is we were able to use the original cape, which I always like to do just because it's so personal to the hunter. The other eye actually turned out better than the other side, which this one, y'all remember first the video, was actually not tore up near as bad. This eye over here was tore to pieces. But that is not a bad looking mount for what we started out with. I'm proud of that, and I'm hoping that the customer is proud to hang him on his wall. Well guys, I hope that this was helpful. And if you got any questions, please comment below. Or if you've got any kind of comments of how I might be able to do that a little bit better, or any different techniques that y'all have, comment below. Let me know what y'all do in the same situation. Guys, I appreciate y'all watching this. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We'll see y'all next time.